Yo, friends and foes, and welcome to Dad's on Life, your episodic show about parenting from a male perspective. I'm your host, Dan Miles, and with me, as always, are my co-host, Keith Bogan.
Good morning, Nutball.
Chad Holloway.
Hello.
And Doug Hammondike.
And I'll disagree because it's afternoon. Howdy.
Got a good point. I'm leaving now.
Today, we're going to be talking about our children and dating. Doug kind of brought this up. I have a feeling there's a reason. There's probably a bit of a reason to this. It's something that, you know, with my oldest daughter being almost 11, that there's, you know, some conversations that have happened and some things that I've noticed lately. Get into that in a few minutes. Who wants to, Doug, this was kind of your bring up, so why don't you kick us off?
It's just, I don't know. It just came to mind. You know, my son Brendan is a little bit older, 15, going on 16 in July. And, I just was like trying to get some advice from the older guys here, like how it was with their kids, and as they got older and everything from, I was looking for from dating to like just being closed off, and difference between independence and being closed off in their rooms as such. And also, the dating world and how did things go with their boys, and just seeing Brendan and his interaction with a particular person. Nobody's dating or anything at this point, to my knowledge. But I came from a background of my parents. It's was a very Christian one, very Baptist, being brought up, very strict and all, and it was just still the thoughts of never having the door closed. Everything had to be in public. As to when you're with your family and stuff. And it's just interesting how thinking about myself and what I'm going to do when Brendan actually does start walking around and courtship and stuff, and just the whole idea of teaching them the right things, and it's funny, because sometimes you get it from other people with either holding the door or that a man should walk on the outside of a woman, and just opening up car doors and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's a whole new world,
But so, is it? But hold on a second. But is it? Or I have to jump in real quick because, Doug, I think you're missing the biggest point, and that is when I heard you say when I have to start teaching him certain things. You've been teaching him by being a role model with your wife since he was born.
That's true.
And so you there's no starting to teach. You all you've been doing is showing him, and you, from what I can tell, you have a pretty good marriage there. You're doing a great job. And this is somewhere where I'm kind of envious because in my situation, I never was a good role model in terms of my marriage for my boys. They learned a lot of good things, but from a marriage perspective, terrible role model. You guys are doing a great job there, and I think the biggest thing you can be doing, and the same thing goes for Jason because his kids are young, is more of the same. Is just continuing to model what you should be doing. It's more about what they see happening and less about, oh, we should sit down and have the talk, because that always backfires. They learn that stuff at school.
Right.
It's you do the right thing every day, you show the right thing every day, and if you do something that's bad, you snap at your wife snaps at you, that's when you go and you say, you have a private conversation with them. Hey, we don't necessarily, every now and then we slip a little bit, but that's not the way you should be. And I did try to do that with my kids when things got a little unruly here, which unfortunately was frequent. I would point out to them, when she wasn't around, that's not the way you treat your partner in life. You have to really think that for 16 years you've been a really good role model to him, and he was watching you from the time he popped out.
Yeah,
How old is
absolutely.
it?
I'll follow up with what Keith said. And I think, Doug, you and Heather have a great relationship and have been real good role models for the boys. And, that's a place like Keith. I feel like I've fallen down a little bit on some of that stuff. But, it is what it is. And life doesn't, you learn as you go through life and those kinds of things. But, I think he's well prepared based on what he's seen in your relationship. And the other thing I'd like to comment on is you said we're living in a different world. And I think that to some extent that's true, but I think that's where people can fall into different groups, if you know what I mean. Like, I think there are a lot more feminist type of women now, because I'm very traditional. I like the traditional relationship, and hey, that's just who I am. If somebody doesn't like that, if a woman doesn't like that, then don't go out with me. And that's kind of where I've fallen out now is, Anna is very traditional. She was in here a few minutes ago cooking some lunch and some things like that. And she's always kind of taking care of me. But that's what I want. That's what I enjoy. So you have to search that stuff out. Sometimes I do think, and I've seen discussion boards where they talk about like the traditional relationships and traditional roles versus kind of the more kind of egalitarian, but I don't even know if that's the right way, because she's as successful as I am in many things. But in other countries, I think there are more traditional women, if you will. I wouldn't say women, I would say traditional roles that are expected of the people. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you guys are doing a great job. And I think, the other thing is that, if he's kind of a traditional kid, then he'll find himself a traditional girl.
How old is he?
15.
He's 15 now. Okay. Now, I don't know.
And the thing I remember about 15 is that there was a monkey on my back and on many other people's backs that we had to try to get rid of at that time.
What do you mean by that?
Virginity. Nobody wanted to be a virgin at 15.
Well, I don't think it was that big a deal.
Oh, it was a big deal.
maybe it's a different time. Was it a big deal for you, Keith, in your back in your day? I mean, because our days are...
So recall that I have spoken on these podcasts before about how I was like the school nerd. So it was a big deal for everybody, but it didn't matter what I did. I wasn't going to exactly pop my cherry early on, that's for sure. I was a bit of a late bloomer, but I mean, I'm sure there were others around me who were later. It's not like that anymore at all. Sex is a very different topic for kids now. And I think that there's still a lot of stuff going on, don't get me wrong. But they're so inundated by all the advertising and all the media around them that it's overwhelming to them, whereas it was mysterious to us. We didn't see, it was cool for us when we were, well, for Chad and me when we were little kids. Dad got Playboy, we'd go in there and sneak a peek at the mag. But now they can see whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, with whatever species they want. It doesn't even matter anymore. It's ridiculous. So they're so used to seeing it all in their environment. There's less excitement about it. So they're focused on other things, which I think is great, actually. And there's a lot more education involved too. So at least in the case of my community, there's a lot of smart behavior as long as they get good education from a lot of places. And they've learned also, you teach them and I teach them and we all teach them how to filter that information as best they can. They're seeing a lot of trash too, but they kind of have some skills built up about what to judge as valid and what to judge as meaningless and whatever. Yeah, so it's interesting you said 15 years old. When Justin was 15, he's the older of the two. When he was 15, he was dating, and dating meant occasionally going to a movie, hanging out at school. In his case, they certainly were sucking face, but they weren't doing anything else. And he dated this one girl for about 4 months. But then he discovered rather harshly that she was kind of doing half the school. So that ended rather abruptly. He was really crushed by it. So at that age, he went to his mother because he didn't understand why this girl would behave this way. And I could see the thought process. He went to mom because mom's also a girl. Please explain why this girl would do this sort of thing. And he could have just as easily come to me. I don't know. I mean, we were kind of, he had a good equal relationship with both of us at the time. Now he doesn't speak to mom at all, but back then he sort of had an equal relationship, and he decided at 15 who could help him more survive the agony of that breakup. But ever since then, every time he has a question about a relationship, it's me. He doesn't ever talk to his mother again about anything. By the time he's 15, he's got enough control over his own thinking that he'll know sometimes he's going to go to Heather and sometimes he's going to go to you. But it's more important to let him come to you than to chase him down for stuff, because that just pushes him away. I've never chased Justin or Jeremy about anything. Although I guess my kids are actually old enough now where I can have a little good fun, good-natured teasing about stuff and being careful and not being a grandfather just yet and all that. We laugh about stuff like that. But it's also, that's the whole part about it. I think it's a little easier being a boy, just make sure you bring the protection and do, treat them right and that sort of thing. I can imagine from your perspective, especially Jason, society still puts its pressure on you to protect more than necessarily if you had sons.
Yeah, I think Jason's the one here who I probably have the most sympathy for raising the girls, because for boys it was definitely challenging, but I think with daughters, man, I feel for you, buddy. It's
wait, it's worse than you think, because the girls are a perfect replica of their mother, and their mother is a very outward engaging person. She's not shy at all. Oh no, the Elise I know isn't shy at all. So you're screwed. What are you shaking your head at?
You have no fucking idea who my wife is, do you?
Well, she obviously is comfortable around me, so I assume she behaves that way in front of everybody. Well, do tell. Come on, tell us. Give us the scoop.
No. No, Delana looks absolutely nothing like my wife. Absolutely nothing like my wife.
I didn't say anything about looks. I'm talking about
absolutely nothing like my wife. You're out of your fucking mind. No, Delana is probably about 85% who I am.
That's even scarier.
down to there's certain things she does, and she's like, oh fuck. But no. Well, I guess about a week or two ago, a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that there was one boy who was saddled with Delana and one of the other girls that are on the wrestling team, Maya, this kid Anthony, and it seemed like they kind of, they were running together a little bit. Then Anthony kind of disappeared, which actually I found out recently that Anthony was the president of the wrestling of Old Bridge Matt Rat's nephew. I didn't realize that. But there's one kid now, I can't remember his name, Kenny maybe, who gravitates towards training with Maya and Delana. There's actually two of them. One of them is the kid has been in jiu-jitsu, and same as both Maya and Delana. And this kid barely says a peep. This kid Ethan, and actually just wrestled his first matches recently. He was pretty much constantly training with the girls. Now there's another one who, and he really kind of gravitates towards training with Elena. And I think it's partly because the kid has a crush on Elena, which they're 9, 10, 11. It's fine. Funny thing is, Coach Justin, Elise was telling me, said to me, she goes, do they think she's a doll? And I went, what do you mean? Knowing exactly what she was getting at. Saying that Coach Justin was kind of afraid, Mike or Justin, I don't know which one. I think it might have been Justin. It was Justin. Was afraid, it seems to be afraid to touch Dwayne. I actually still need to have a conversation with him, tell him she's not a doll, she's not porcelain. She wants to be taught. You're not gonna do, we know you're not gonna do anything. Teacher. But Elise and I had a conversation recently about when might be a good time should we be approached about dating. And it really depends on who it is. There is one boy in particular who the answer would be probably next year. Within the next, like 6th, 7th grade, next year or so. But this is because this is a boy that Delaney has known her life. Literally her whole life. They were in the infant room in daycare together. They're best friends. So am I going to be shocked if that ends up being Delena's first date and it comes within the next couple of, maybe next year or so? Not at all. Because at 11, 10, 11, 12, nothing is going to, yes, they know more than we did, but no, it's not going to get to the point of having to worry about it. But more or less 7th, 8th grade would be is a good jumping off point, because first off, I think Delana is, and both of them are to an extent. Sadie's only 8, but both the girls are mature for their age and pretty smart for their age. So yeah, I joke about, as I posted the picture a couple of weeks ago about being screwed. Looks wise, yes, I am, but on that level of mentality, I'm not really worried about anything anytime soon, Elise didn't start dating, she told me, until I think she was either 16 or 18. She didn't go on her first date till, but Keith will tell you that it could be because of a certain reason, a certain thing she had that other girls didn't have, like she did in high school. And that was something that the guys obviously made important, let's put it that way. Unfortunately, both girls will probably have the same curse. And Elise was, no, get the fuck out of here, for a very long time, because she knew that's what they were after, and she wasn't like that. She wasn't that kind of person. So I'm hoping that that's going to rub off on the girls. I believe it will. Like I said, I think Delana is extremely smart for her age, I think, when it comes to a lot of different things, and mature for her age. Also, the wrong boy does something stupid, they're gonna walk away with either a black eye, bloody nose, or a broken arm. And that is 100% the truth, because I know Delena's not going to hold back to slug them, grab their arm and put them in an arm bar, or generally somehow beat the shit out of them. So I'm going to be more surprised. I'm not going to be surprised when that phone call comes from that Delena's in trouble for doing that to somebody, probably. Not going to surprise me at all. And Sadie, we're a long way off, but Sadie's got a, how am I going to put this nicely? Sadie's got a bit of a mean streak like her mother. I can see it really starting to grow. Like there's certain times and I'm just like, oh, like she'll say something, then it's just like, wow, that was really mean. That was really low to say, for her to say. And she's like, ooh. The fangs come out on the claws come out on that one sometimes, on the younger one. It's actually really, and it's not the nicest thing. She's gonna, and I'm gonna tell you, Sadie's gonna piss somebody off, and then that again, that person's probably gonna try to do so, and Sadie's gonna kick the shit out of them. So yeah, it, like I said, it really depends on the situation. Probably, but 7th, 8th grade, girl or boy, for me, that's kind of, yeah, it's okay. And like Keith had said, like normal how it starts. They go to the movies occasionally. Yeah, they do whatever. If they go to the park, hang out, whatever, go somewhere and hang out. Unfortunately, you can't do like we used to of just going to the mall or going here or there to hang out, because hanging out in places seems to be frowned upon at this point. And you can't go to the roller skating ring or the ice skating ring anymore, really, because they're not really around. But amazingly, actually, it was something that they were working on, that they've been working on, like a bowling alley pool hall type thing, on Route 18, that actually we drove by, that finally friggin' opened after almost a year and a half of them working on it. So it also, one of the more interesting things here is, I got to see it firsthand through my niece. She's had a boyfriend for pretty much since maybe a little over a year ago, a year and a half ago, something like that. I think about a year, I think they've been together. And she's going to be a senior in high school at this point. I hope it doesn't, and I hope it changes, because I've noticed that one of the things that the pandemic has had an effect on is dating and socialization. Obviously, we know it had an effect on socialization, but I feel bad for some of these kids, because their lives really have been altered, especially the kids that are now, entering their later years of high school. These kids were deprived of a lot. And part of it is that socialization of dating and things like that, because a lot of the stuff they had to do, they were online for a very long time, maybe a little longer than they should have been. But yeah, it could be real tough for some of these kids, unfortunately.
I would suggest that
You're
this
talking, you're on mute.
generation. Oh, go ahead.
Doug, you're on mute. Your mouth is moving. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it's just car traffic. So yeah, Keith was saying about just the funny thing about teasing his kids a little bit, and that's when I brought this up, was because I was out with my brother, and we were picking up Brendan from work, and he had his friend in the back of the car and stuff. And my brother's all like, "What are these guys dating already?" And he just starts laying into him and totally embarrassing the poor kid, and he's just like carrying on and really, really giving him a good one. And then he comes out with, "Well, you better hold on to this because once puppy love is over, you never get it back." He goes, "And then you get married, and then you have kids. And the only good thing about having kids is seeing them smile." So, it
Wow,
was just,
Jeff, thanks for the pearls of wisdom.
Well, at least he didn't say the only thing good about having kids is that they get to suffer the same fate that you had to suffer. So, he could have gone down that road.
Go ahead, Chad. I was gonna say something, then I kind of lost it. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, his comment about the puppy love, that's the thing too, that I've seen that, it really stinks as a parent to watch your kid go through it. I mean, but we all went through it, right? When we were young, we had somebody that crushed our hearts. And I can still remember, I think I was in Saudi Arabia at the time, and Frankie calls me, and I could tell he was kind of, he was crying a little bit. He's like, "Oh, Rachel broke up with me." But I knew that was the whole thing was a disaster. I could see it as a father looking at it, but of course he has to go through it, right? But I just felt so bad for the kid, and it changes them, and it just like it changed us, I'm guessing, because it changed me. First it's real easy just to like give all you've got, but then after your heart gets crushed a time or two, then you're like, yeah, I'm gonna hold back a little bit on this. It's never the same.
It's actually the lesson that everybody should go through because it gives you a more realistic viewpoint. I got Justin, who went through that once, and you can tell it still bugs him. It still pisses him off when you bring up her name. He's like, he gets that little dark look in his eyes. Jeremy, who's been dating the same girl for 5 years, is only 19 years old and has never had another girlfriend. He's never known what that's like. Now, I hope he never does. But is he being actually shortchanged by not having gotten hardened up by having to deal with that? Is he really going to marry the first girl he ever dates? You do hear a story like that every now and then, but
yeah,
it'd be awfully surprising if they went down that road. By the way, Jason, you said something earlier that they're getting shortchanged because of everything's so much online and all that. I would argue at least that this generation, this age group right now, at least they're better prepared for that because they're used to being online. Now, I think it unfortunately solidifies, like, we're in danger now of an entire generation of kids. That's all they know. And now for 2 years that they've been prevented from doing anything else. They may never go back to in-person contact. I'm worried about that. But my boy, Justin lives in South Carolina. His to-be wife lives in Massachusetts. Jeremy lives in Ohio. His longtime girlfriend, I'll just call it that, lives in New Jersey. And it doesn't faze them. They're very tight couples. So they're very used to, navigating the relationship through online stuff. They got plenty of friends who do the same thing. They're much more prepared. I think if there'd been a pandemic in the, for Chad's purposes, like me, in the late 70s, we'll say, or the mid 70s, late 70s, early 80s, it would have wrecked us because we didn't have the alternative of seeing people on a screen. It just didn't exist. By the time you guys, Doug and Jason, came along, you were a little bit later than us, so you saw things a little bit later, and computers started to happen. You might have had a shot, but it still would have been very damaging to you. I think this generation can handle what's going on in the pandemic from the interpersonal connection standpoint because it's a reflection of what they were doing anyway. It's still damaging. I'm not saying you're wrong, but maybe not as much as we think.
Yeah, well, and Keith, to your point about the first thing is, should Jeremy go through that breakup or not? Man, I tell you what, I've got I'm jealous of the kid. How great would it be to have that first relationship and just have it carry on forever? I mean, because that's like the pure love, and that's something, I'll never get back. He has it. So I'm super, I hope it continues for him, you know, because I do know that especially I think for him, it'd probably be much more traumatic since he does have such a long relationship, you know, at this point. But you know, so I'm jealous of the kid. That's great, you know, if they can swing it. And then the second comment is, I think even before the pandemic, I feel like technology was kind of taking us into a more sheltered world than you and I lived in already. So I think we were halfway there before the pandemic, and I think the pandemic just maximized what was, you know, kind of what was already in progress.
I
So I think
dated the
I think
same, I dated the same girl in high school for 3 years myself, so there's a family history of this. And I still know her. She's still a good friend of mine all these years later. It's kind of funny because at the end of high school, we graduated, we went to our parties, and then we looked at each other because we knew she was going to Massachusetts, and at the time I was planning to go to Texas. And we looked at each other and we were like, oh, well, okay, nice, see you later. Because there was no such thing as a long distance relationship like that. We didn't even consider it. We just like, bye.
yeah, yep. And just think,
It's like, I look back now and my God, Morgan and I would agree. She would say it faster that if we'd stayed together, we'd both be dead now because we would have killed each other. We're still good friends, but no way. All this time.
and just think, if you would have went to Texas at that time, she could have sang the song "All My Exes Live in Texas."
And there you go. There you go. I've seen a few of her exes over the years, and I think they actually live in hell, but not as bad as mine. No, never mind. No,
There you
Well, I'm not sure you guys know this. Elise and I met on an internet dating site. I don't know if I've ever told you that.
I
We
did
met
not
on
have that.
Yeah, we met on Match. And then we grew up one town over. And our first date, we went to this club that no longer exists, obviously, as most clubs don't. And her and one of her friends were talking, and they were talking about this girl, Donna, and her boyfriend at the time. Maybe it was her husband. I don't know. I don't remember. Boyfriend, I think. And they mentioned his name, and they see, like, he's a guitar player, the band, blah, 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 Hurt. And they mentioned his name, Paul. And I said, Spatola? And Elise and her friend look at me and they're like, yeah, do you know him? I said, I know his family. I said, I grew up with his brother. And then started talking. And then it was, then they mentioned this other guy, Josh, who was in the band too, that the guy who we went to see her friend's band play. So I started talking to him, and they brought up Josh, and turns out that Mike used to live with him. I went to school with Josh as well. And then it was just this long list of similarities of people we knew, down to she has a best friend who is a lesbian, and we went to Medieval Times to meet her and her girlfriend. And we're standing in Medieval Times, and I see this girl across the room who I knew, and I went, there's no fucking way it's her. Oh, let me introduce you to my girlfriend. So we go across the room, walk over, and sure enough, we walk right to the girl that I knew. And she turns around. I said, hey, Cheryl, what's going on? She goes, what are you doing here? And Elise and her friend look at me. I'm like, knew her from Middlesex County College radio station. And she goes, you're kidding me. No. And it even 15 years later, it's still happening. Like, she'll mention somebody and it's like, yeah, I went to high school with them. Or I did this, or, and it's just down to her mother worked at the same pediatrician that I went to. I probably knew her mother 25 years before Elise and I met. We went to the same dentist when we were kids. Our girls go to the same dentist now.
At least you didn't
So
date
it-
all these women in your young days, so that's good.
What's that?
At least you didn't date all these women in your younger days. That's good. You would have gotten a lot of trouble for that.
She actually knew one or two of them that I had dated. That she's like, oh, really? You know that? Yeah. It was the whole thing is just one. Our relationship is one big coincidence after another. And like I said, 15 years later, the conversation still comes up where it'll be, oh yeah, I knew them. I know them. It happened at a wrestling tournament not too long ago, where she saw somebody and I went, oh, I didn't know you knew them.
Doug, I have a question for you. This is for Doug, but it's really for all of us. Are we having this conversation because we remember what we were like when we were 12 and 13 and 14 years old?
No, because I think it's going to be very different. I don't know if I hope it to be very different or whatever, I was,
I think you hope.
but surprisingly, just like Keith was saying, I was awkwardly shy and introverted and socially awkward in situations like that with dating and all. And pretty much Heather is the one and only. So, I mean, we could just skip right to that, so the whole dating thing, it really never happened for me. And definitely not in the teen years. So,
I really hope that no, I hope not. I hope that my girls don't go through some of the crap that I went through.
my mom was so
I,
bad. My mom would be like, Doug, you need to go out and all. And she would like tell my neighbors, like pay them like take Doug to Club and A, try to find him someone like Bird Hill, I meant, type things. That's how bad I was.
I was dating a girl my freshman year of high school. And I just found out recently there was more to it than I knew. But we went through a breakup and a bunch of different things that were involved, and got a phone call a day or two after Halloween that she was in the hospital, that she had jumped out of a second floor window. So yeah, I really hope that I blame myself for a while. And it turns out that she was being sexually assaulted by her stepfather. Plus, I mean, I've also been through, I've mentioned, I don't think I don't know if I've mentioned here or not, that the person that I met before Elise was physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive. So yeah, I hope that my kids don't go through the same shit that I went through. That's for sure.
That's fair, definitely. And
Well, I don't think we're worried so much about, I think we're worried more about that. But my brothers always kid me because I'm the youngest of the four brothers. And so that when my boys were really young, they would kid me a lot about, are they going to be like you were? Because they knew how wild I got to be in my, not my high school years, but my college years, when I apparently was making up for, perceived lost time. So they would.
I did that too. I did that too. But in college, it's a little bit. Once they're 18.
And so this is the conversation. This is the conversation I have with my brother Stuart, who is the father to the only girl in the Bogan bloodline. Hannah is, I can't remember if she's hit her 19th birthday yet. She's a freshman at USC Junior, Southern California. And she's dating this guy, Danny, who apparently I've never met Danny, but it sounds like he's a really good guy. And, my Stuart and his wife, really like him a lot. And, they're going through this, what you're going to be going through in a few years. Well, they might be doing stuff, but she's 18 or she's legal age. She's away at school. It's not like they can, not watching her every day. But I think they both feel comfortable that they raised her as best they could, and she'll make intelligent decisions. And she'll, if she's going to wander into a territory of doing things with him, she'll do it in a smart and safe way. And, it goes right back to the very first thing we said is if we were the right role models and we gave them the right information or access to information, and we guided them when we, if they came to us for advice and we gave them the best advice we could, they're going to make the right choices. There's too little of that in our world. So there's a lot of kids running around doing stupid shit because parents aren't very good at being parents. But I look at the four of us and I've certainly learned a lot about you guys in the last year and a half, and it seems like we're all doing a pretty good job.
And I guess I kind of feel the same way, I guess, about Frankie too. At this point, when he left for college, even at 18, I said something about him having his Life 360 on, which is like a thing where where your family members are. You can like look on their GPS, whatever. And he's like looking at me, and I'm like, listen, I'm not going to come tracking you down. I just want to know, like, if something comes up and there's an emergency, or I don't talk to you for days on end, I want to know where you are. I go, but you have access to my stuff. I go, this is a whole different deal. Now I go, you're on your own, buddy. I go, I've kind of done my job. I said, I've done the best I can. Of course, my door is always open. I'm on the phone. Phone is always here. I'll always pick up for you. I said, so if you have any questions or need to talk about anything, let's do that. And, to your point, Keith, I've at least given him the right information. I haven't always been the best role model, but at least I've given him, he's been exposed to the correct information. I've even explained some things. I'm like, hey, listen, I go in my life, I haven't done this well. I haven't done this well. And for my advice to you is to do this and this, and then it was funny recently. He was talking to me about I think it's something relationship based, but he says, yeah, I talked to my mom, and his mom is much more of a much better relationship person than I have been. I'm trying to change that at this point, but, and he said, yeah, he says, I was talking to my mom kind of about some of the things with you. And she's like, Frankie, your dad is just complicated. So I felt at least like at least she was kind of skirting that issue, on some of those things, talking to him. But I know he's been asking about, things about relationships and about life. And, so at this point, I'm like, hey, he's his own man. He's got to figure out who he is. I can't be on his back about things, so I'm just trying to help him be him at this point.
I did want to circle back for a second, back to what Jason was saying about just the whole idea of how people are communicating, online and stuff now. And I think that it's not necessarily is even just the pandemic. I just think just all of life is circled around, all these different apps and our phones. And I mean, just driving, seeing kids out even in the park with the freaking phone in their hand. And if it's taking selfies or doing whatever, texting your friend. And I even saw, yesterday, bringing Brendan to work, him texting the girl that was sitting right behind me that I was driving her as well. And I'm like, seriously? And that is one of the things that I'm worried about, the art of conversation and just being able to make your partner laugh and having that value of being able to talk, is something that could quickly be lost, in this new world of phones, I really want to say, so I don't know. And how important that is to a relationship, and making sure that my kids, they know that, and, taking the time to sit down and have dinner every night, and, and seeing just how me and Heather work and stuff is, I think also an added value to them, so they know how they should act when they're whatever they decide to court in the future.
When they decide to do it, that's when you'll be like, you could have waited a little longer. So it'll happen soon enough, whether it happens when Stuart's other child, Sam is, I think he just turned 21. He's either 20 or 21. He hasn't dated yet. That's his choice. He may get to it at some point, but he's very focused on his studies. He's going to a very exclusive Brainiac college in the Los Angeles area, and he's very, he's got his studies and his sports and all that, and that's his focus now. And we'll get to it later. they all get to it whenever they want to get to it. Hannah really didn't start dating until I think about halfway through high school. And I think for me, it was really important to not exert influence, but to be the role model and then to be there if there was a question. So every now and then, like I said, the questions now, or the exerting of influence, comes through humor now. You know, I'll gently tease them about something, but what I'm really doing is kind of making subtle suggestions inside the humor, if you will. Now, I get every now and then, the subject will come up with Justin. There's a funny story for us that a lot of people know this. 3 years ago, I went to visit a friend of mine who works for Church and Dwight down in Southern Virginia, just south of Richmond. And he was very excited to have me come to his place of work. Church and Dwight. I mean, I don't know, what do they make? Arm & Hammer. They make some good stuff. I don't know, whatever it was. So I show up at work, and he has a line of his supervisors waiting at the door for me, and he's waiting at the door for me. And I'm like, why is it? What's going on here? And it turns out that it was the division of Church and Dwight that it was Trojan. I had no idea that they owned Trojan. And the reason they were all lined up there is because I walk in and he hands me this bag, and he's like, we give everybody a bag of samples when they come to tour our facility. And I open it up and I'm like, oh shit, because there's no sign on the door that says Trojan. I open it up and I'm like, oh my God, there's like 25 condoms in there. And the point of the story is I wound up bringing the bag home, and I eschewed dating a while ago. I just don't give a crap about that right now. So it wasn't like I'm running to use them. I put them in my closet, and I told Justin, I always want you to be safe. So by the way, there's a stash in my closet that he knows about, and he knows where it came from. He didn't, like, I didn't go out there and give him my extras. It was just like, this is what I got him from. And more recently it came up, hey, having fun out there. I hope you're being safe and all that. And he looked at me and he said, Dad, I know where the bag is. Oh, okay. You were listening to me. And sure enough, I went and I looked, and the supply has dwindled a little bit. I wonder how that happened. Good boy. Good. I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, that's good. I think they need to access that stuff. Not only do we need to talk about that, but it's very easy for them, I think, to know what they need to do. But then, I think back to, 15, 16, 17 years old. Do you think they're going to walk into, well, in my case, we're from a relatively small town, right? So there's a good chance if they walk into a pharmacy, walk into Walgreens, they're going to know somebody. And so they're going to walk in there and be like, Frankie's going to walk in and be like, oh yeah, I need a 12 pack of condoms, and then say, oh, hi, Mr. My girlfriend's dad. I mean, so in those situations, so from the time he was probably 15, I bought him some condoms that I said, if you need a refill, let me know. I said, because I'm like, I don't want you to be embarrassed about this. And I said, I know where I was at that age if I had to go buy him. And, but it's just one of the things, my mom wrote me a letter. I found it, I don't know where it is now, but it was back when I went to college, my freshman year. It's just like, this thing about, oh, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And says, and remember the two things, please be careful of addiction and unwanted pregnancies. And that I still remember, I mean, very, very, very strongly. I mean, that's 40 years ago, 45 years ago, something like that. And I still remember, because that's one thing she worried about.
Doesn't change.
That
message doesn't change. Those are the big things out there. That's for sure.
Yep.
In that order, I might add. I think I'd rather my son make the mistake of getting his girl pregnant, especially since I know they're pretty tight, than getting addicted to something, because that's a longer term problem. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm not necessarily ready to be grandpa yet, but I'd deal with it if I had to.
Yep. Absolutely. Me too.
Jason's still like, oh God, I'm in trouble. Oh God, I'm in trouble. Oh God, I'm in trouble.
So Jason, let me ask this. So before her first date, is there anything that you would say to her, any advice that you would give to your daughter, or if her boyfriend or date comes in the house, would you talk to them about anything in particular?
depends on who it is, like I said. Um, Not particularly.
I
Um,
would think if they come into the house and they're relaxed and they're kind of cool and they're not obnoxious, you kind of
Yeah.
play along with it. But if you sense right away that they're kind of dorks and arrogant about it, that's when you kind of step up and be the dad, and you probably want to say something. I don't know. I don't have any girls, so I don't know how I'd react, but I'm pretty sure I'd be judging it that way.
Yep.
yeah, it definitely depends on who it is. Certain people probably, I mean, like I said, I don't even know. I only know a couple of her friends, really. I mean, I know a bunch of her friends, but most of them are girls. There's two boys that I can think of friends with. And I don't see a problem with either one of them that I would there would be a problem. But I mean, there's kids you see every day in everyday life. And you're kind of like, yeah, that I would definitely say something, but it's it's pretty like I said, it's been pretty interesting with her with wrestling. To see how some of the boys have reacted to her. And so, I think for a lot of them, it's just she is just another wrestler to them. And obviously they know she's a girl. They don't. It's not like it's big secret or a big surprise. And I've seen her interact with like I said, I've seen her interact with a couple of boys because there's a couple of boys that are from the neighborhood that she knows, and it's just she interacts with them the way she's always interacted with them, and it's kind of like, okay, yeah, cool. They're actually really good kids, most of them. And what I've met of them. But like I said, I mean, even this kid that I really don't know much about, I've only seen him a couple of times. Seems like a nice enough kid that it's kind of like, okay, cool, whatever. If he likes my daughter, he likes my daughter. What am I gonna do? Nothing. Seems harmless enough. Well, I don't know exactly where in Old Bridge he's from because it is the entire town that these kids are from, and we're 38 and a half square miles, the town. So it could be from Lawrence Harbor, he could be from down the block. I don't know. I didn't realize until the first tournament that this one girl, Maisie, was a really pretty good wrestler. Lance tells me, oh, they live like 3 houses down. Like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And then Bane, who's his father is the president, same guy I was talking about with the nephew. They live 1 street over, 2 streets over. So I mean, it's become a little more eye-opening as to proximity of the kids. But I mean, the one who lives a couple houses down, their son is a couple of years older than Delana, and his name's come up a bunch of times in her life, but nothing, Gavin's a real quiet, nice kid who just really, he does what he's told. I think he's in 7th grade, maybe. So maybe he's 2 years older than Delana. But yeah,
So I have bad news for you, Jason. And
What?
this goes for Doug too. You know all the mental gymnastics you just went through in the last 3 minutes?
yeah,
And your older daughter is going to be 11 soon.
yeah.
You're going to go through the same mental gymnastics when she's 23 and when she's 28.
Oh, I know.
You're going to react exactly the same. And I think we all do that. I have a little bit less
well.
to offer on that because my kids haven't changed girlfriends, but I think that you're gonna do that for the rest. And when they get married, you're gonna keep an eye on their marriage. You're gonna watch that too. And we don't stop being parents.
Well, personal hope. By the time she's 28, I hope she's married.
Maybe.
I
Marriage
hope-
happens later and later now.
No, I
and
know.
it's
I know.
less interesting to people.
Would it be upsetting to me if by 20, 27, 28 she's married? No, not at all.
But it shouldn't be upsetting to you if she's not married either.
No, it wouldn't. But I'm just saying.
The way they're wrestling, they might have killed all their boyfriends by then. I don't know.
That is possible. I mean, there's a couple in the high school that are. One of them's a two-time state champion and one-time runner-up, who's a female wrestler in Old Bridge. And I was talking. Actually, turns out that I'm friends with her aunt, and she said, I feel bad for the poor boyfriend she had. She probably kicks his ass all the time. Not really. Right now, it's just kind of enjoying watching them grow at this point and get older. Because, how can I put this without turning it into, oh, woe is me. I missed a lot for obvious reasons. Nothing that I keep secret on here or that I've kept secret on here. Anybody's paying attention has known what I've said and what I've had to say about certain issues recently. And now I actually kind of sort of got called out by my counselor this last week for completely missing a month, saying that I was 18 months sober and 19, and I'm actually 19 going on 20 now. So getting to take Delana to wrestling practice and Sadie to jiu-jitsu and Sadie here and there. And Sadie is doing silks now. She's been doing silks, which is aerial yoga, for a while. And it's actually, she's the youngest one in the class by far. It's all women. And she's actually pretty good at it. But with Delana, it's been pretty cool to see her interact with her teammates. But the interest, but she does gravitate towards one girl, Maya, who's there all the time with her. And that's her buddy, that's her running buddy. But they do interact with the boys too, some of them. But even when they go out and they do their takedowns, they work together. So it's kind of, it's been a journey with that. But then again, she's been around boys her age, younger, older, for the last 4 years with jiu-jitsu. So I really don't, just letting it be at this point.
And we go back to how we introduced this, which is by parenting properly, you have socialized your daughters in a way that's most appropriate, not just that you got them out with other girls their age when they were little, but other boys as well. And there was no real difference when they were younger. So they grew up in the environment where they were comfortable with both genders, not really worried about the difference, and they could gradually work their way into understanding that there may be a difference. It's all about parenting. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have anything they want to add before we wrap this up, as we've pushed an hour?
That was fun.
That's fine.
No sex till marriage.
I will only add that I wish you, Jason, continued good luck. And I will laugh and rib you from a close distance just to give you crap as we go along, because you're gonna need it.
Yeah. I guess
Well, yeah,
that-
we're ignoring the fact that there is another girl in the picture now, you know. There is another little one, and you know, Chad hasn't said a word, but you know it's coming with him too.
It
Oh,
is.
she's got a long way to go, though.
Yeah, but she's 11.
I was
She's
gonna say,
11?
yeah, I was gonna say
She's
she's in the same
11.
category.
Like 7.
No. So she's 11, but she's I'd say advanced for her age, just kind of growing up in Columbia and some of the things she's seen. And to your point about not worrying about her defending herself, I don't worry about much because she's got both the mouth and the moves to back up what she says. And she's a tough one. She really is.
With
You know,
that said,
I love her to death, but she's ooh boy.
With that said,
pity
she's in
the
a new
fool.
country. There's a new country with a whole different set of societal behaviors and all that. So I know Chad's sitting there sharpening his blades and getting his ammunition and all that stuff. He's ready to go.
Yeah, the thing is, more than likely, we're going to need bail money before we're going to need bullets.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Could very well be. I don't want Chad to feel left out because he's there too.
Yeah, I am, and I was thinking about that earlier. I've still got that to go through, but I feel pretty good about her standing up for herself and everything. So
You
And
also
knowing which one.
voluntarily chose this. You knew what you were getting yourself into when you started
Yeah.
dating Nana.
yep, absolutely.
So
I
Jason
think-
didn't know what was popping out. You did.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, that's true.
I think that's a pretty good place to leave this for this week. So basically, from all of us here at Dad's on Life, take care, everybody.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's
Take care.